Good morning, Lori. Very good, thanks.
Well, I'm going to introduce Joan Bachman, and she is the co author with her mother of the book If Only You Would Ask. So, Joan, if you can tell us a little bit, a little bit about yourself, your background, and how did the book come about?
Well, Lori, the book, maybe I'll start with how the book came about. Maybe the years go quickly, but 6 years ago, I would make the visit from Rochester, where we were living, up to the Twin Cities to visit my father-in-law. And he was in his later years and had decided he was going to stay in his home as long as he could. And because I was a dutiful daughter-in-law, I thought, gee, he's alone a lot. And so I really made an effort to drive up about once a week, the 100 miles, to go visit Bill. And he was always glad to see me, and we'd sit at his kitchen table and have coffee, and I'd tell him what I'd been doing and what the kids were doing and what we had for dinner last night. And at that point, he was getting out very little and had very little to share. They watched the rabbits out the window for hours. And anyway, and so I would spend, a couple of hours and then give him a big hug and say, well, we'll see you next time. And I would leave for home. And about this time, I was talking with my mother, and I said, gee, the visits to Bill were becoming really long, and I didn't know if it made any difference, and I just didn't know what to talk about. And so before I went the next time, she gave me a notebook filled with questions. And she said, next time you go visit Bill, why don't you bring this notebook with you? And might be kind of fun to ask him some of these questions and then leave it on the counter for the grandchildren. They might appreciate this too. And I thought, yeah, well, that's a good idea. So I had the notebook, and the next time I went to visit Bill, he'd had a turn for the worse, and those questions were never answered. And not long thereafter, he died.
Oh,
And but that was the seed that had been planted because, a number of months later, Mom and I were talking and decided there must be thousands of people just like
mhm,
Bill who are alone for different reasons, and their worlds are getting smaller, and they wonder what they have of value to talk about it anymore.
right.
And the truth is, they have a lot to talk about. People have a lot
Uh-huh.
to share if we just ask the right questions. So we decided to put those original questions and many others into this little book. And it's a resource for people who visit the elderly, or people who have relationships with the elderly, or for grandchildren. And it's
Hmm.
kind of funny because, we say the elderly, but actually these questions are good for any of us who sometimes have difficulty knowing what to talk about.
Well, the new buzzword, just so you know, is called aging population. It's not
Aging.
the elderly anymore. I've
Oh,
learned that in the last couple months.
that's true. That's the thank you.
It's all of us then.
Yeah, I know. I know. So, um, where was I?
So,
Go
do
ahead.
you also record them? Do you have a digital recorder?
That's a really good question. And there are people, or there are books out there that help people write autobiographies. And
Right,
you could certainly tape them. But the beauty of this and the importance of this is the activity is the interaction that we're having right at this
right,
moment. And at this moment, you are the most important person in my life, and I'm
right.
really interested in what you have to say. And
Hmm.
and should should you later decide to tape certain things, obviously you do whatever you like,
Right.
but this is not the purpose of the book to
Okay.
record. No, no.
Yeah, because it's more of a personal thing,
Mm-hmm,
and
mm-hmm.
they don't have to worry about a recording and getting nervous
Right,
about that and saying the wrong
right,
thing and
Right.
So, yeah, I can certainly understand that. And you're right. Then they can always go back later and they can tell you which questions.
Well, and maybe just a little bit of information about how it works. There are over 42 topics in this book. And so the idea is there's something for everybody, and it should never seem like you're being interrogated. It should be fun. And if the
Hmm.
question is not fun, then you move on to the next question.
Right.
But you can open it anywhere. Um, I happened to just now open this to chapter 12, and the title is Parenting Joys and Trials. And the hook question, every chapter has a hook. Do you have children? How many? But if you know you're talking to someone who has no children, of course, then you
Right.
wouldn't use that.
Right.
And let's see, you might go to childhood memories. The hook is, what do you remember about grade school years? And that might be all you need to have a really nice conversation about grade
Right.
school years. But some people might say, oh, I don't remember much. Or if you're not getting very far, then there are follow-up questions for every hook. So
Oh,
regarding
that's great.
school, how did you get to school? Did you carry a lunch? Who was your favorite elementary school teacher? What did you do during recess? Was there a bully in your school? And and so one of these questions will create a trigger, perhaps.
Right.
And all of a sudden you will have been talking for an hour, hour and a half, and oh my gosh, it's time to go. And well, we'll finish that up next time. And if you choose to, you might want to leave a copy of the book with the
Oh,
person to whom you're talking, because sometimes it takes a little while to recall something you may not
right.
have thought about for years. You don't necessarily, and maybe a few hours later, you'll think, oh, that's who I could have talked about. Oh,
Mm-hmm.
that's what she meant. But
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so it's just a wonderful way to have quality time. And people that have used it, the feedback's been great.
Oh,
And people are grateful. And even during COVID, I remember people that were on the phone with loved ones. One man said, I started using this every time I called my mom. And we had great conversations. We ended up singing, because there's stuff in here about music, um, politics, but you might not want to go to that chapter.
yeah, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. Anyway, it's a nice resource. And then, like I said, I know personally, even with my own family, we were out at my mother's. It was a Easter a number of years ago, and after we had just finished the big meal and everyone's kind of sitting around, she brings out the book and she says, "Well, we gotta practice what we preach." And the
Oh,
question was first jobs. Do you remember your first job? And my son-in-law was with us, and I remember he shared information about his first job when he was a waiter in high school and how that came about. And we never would have known any of that. And
yeah,
there too, it was just a nice opportunity to use this to have some quality time. Yeah.
yeah. Is there a recommended time length? Is it an hour, 2 hours of
Oh,
interviewing, or does it just depend on the person?
depends on the person. Generally, if you have a good hour with somebody, that's plenty. But you never know. Sometimes time gets away with you. Somebody called and
Right.
said, yeah, 2.5 hours later, we still were
Yeah,
sitting
which
there
is
in the
fine.
room. Yeah. Or people in hospice, or people that have long periods of time and loving caregivers, but even people who are more adept at conversation run out of material,
Right.
and we
Yeah,
get
I
tired
bet.
and yeah. So,
Is there anything else that you would like to add before we wrap this up?
um, well, just that I think to remember that everybody has a story. Everybody has a story. And
Mm,
you might think, what have I ever done that's worthy of
right.
interest or conversation? I haven't done any great things. But the truth is, you'll surprise yourself. I mean, and there have been people who say, I haven't thought about that for years.
Hmm.
And even tears to their eyes, like, wow,
Right,
nobody ever asked me those questions before.
right.
And so if you want to give a gift to someone, just to be so interested in what they have to say, what they have to share, and sincerely be interested to listen, because that's what it's about. It's not about sharing my feelings with all of this. It's about finding about yours.
Yeah. You know what? We mentioned that you were a co-author
Yeah,
with your mother. Can you tell us, how that just
yeah,
even how that came about,
yeah. Well, as I
co-author?
mentioned, she gave me the notebook filled with the questions. And those questions, she was part of a writers group in Arizona where she wintered. And it was called Memories into Memoirs. And every week, a group of women would get together and they had a question that they'd be writing about. So these were all
Oh,
questions that she'd thought about over the years, and that was the start of it. And then as we decided to write this book, I mean, we had so many iterations of questions, and but we're not psychoanalysts. So, we
right.
had to be careful that these questions were appropriate. And so it was a couple year process till we decided it was good enough. It was time for that baby to be born.
Oh, and that's so
Yeah.
valuable. It's great that
Yeah.
you put it on paper.
Put it on
And
paper and found out when my mother died, and she died almost 3 years ago now. Um, what a blessing for me that I had an opportunity to talk to her about most of the stuff in this book, you
yeah,
know.
that's
Yeah.
wonderful.
Yeah.
I interviewed this guy. I used to visit him. It was part of this friendly visitor program, and I adopted this older gentleman. And one question that I asked them one day, I don't even know what prompted it, is, "Are you related to anyone famous?"
Ah, good question. Good question.
And I'm thinking there is no way this guy is related to anyone famous. And he said, "Yes, I'm related to Winston Churchill." I couldn't believe it.
Unbelievable. That's a very good question. That's not in this book.
Oh, well, you're going to have to
I
add that
that
one
could
then.
be that could be the next volume.
Yes, exactly.
Oh,
Well, I just want to thank you so much. Thank you for writing the book to begin with,
well, you're welcome.
and for sharing all this information with us.
You're welcome. And my mother is here with us too, and she would be so
Oh,
pleased. She would be so pleased to know that, she told me, she said, Joan, those questions will never get old.
as
And
exactly.
and she was right.
Yes. So, well,
Yeah.
thanks again.
You're welcome. You're welcome.
And thank you for sending me a copy of the book. I have read it, and so I will ask my mom these questions and dig into her long-term memory, because
Yeah.
it's not too late, even though she has memory issues, but they do
Mm-hmm.
tend to remember those,
Mm-hmm.
the ones
Mm-hmm.
from a long time back.
Mm-hmm. For sure. For sure. Well, I hope you find
Oh, yeah,
some things to talk about. Yeah. You will. You will.
I know.
I'm confident.
Well, thanks again.
You're welcome, Lori. Well, and so if only you would ask, everyone has questions to share if we ask the right questions.
And you can get it on Amazon.
You can get it on Amazon. Thank you.
Great.